Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello and welcome to Business Line's State of Economy podcast. I'm your host Haripriya, tech reporter for the publication. In today's episode, we will be discussing India's rapid emergence as a pivotal player in the global semiconductor engineering research and development space. To give us more insights, we are joined by Ritesh Tyagi, Vice President and Global Head VLSI Practice Engineering Wipro, Ameer Saithu, Executive Vice President at HCLTech, Siva Polimetla, Head ER&D at nasscom, and Ashish Kushu, CTO at LTTS. Thank you for joining us today, gentlemen.
To begin with, probably we should speak about how the global semiconductor ecosystem is changing. In the last couple of years, the demand dynamics and geopolitical situation have majorly affected the perfect bullish storm we see right now with all the expansion happening. So if you guys could kick this off by underscoring the movements happening globally in the industry.
See, it is likely to be a similar message from all of us. That we of course saw from the COVID times a demand swing both ways. We all saw that we all reported on it in the market. Then of course the supply chain disruptions that happened in the industry, the semi industry, led to a lot of companies relooking at supply chain resilience as a concept, which was somewhat unheard of before all that. But subsequent to those disturbances, people started taking it quite seriously. Whether geopolitical or otherwise, a lot of countries and hence companies started focusing on some kind of resilience for their supply chain, some kind of control over their supply chain. And hence we are seeing a boom in investments right from manufacturing, that is semi-manufacturing, to capabilities that is there in the complete ecosystem, whether it is ATMPs or OSATs or adjacencies and design services and investments. So we are right now in the middle of an investment cycle because of those. At the same time, there is also significant demand forces that we are seeing because of new uses of technology like AI, which has been adopted at a very fast pace. Something probably, while we all have been in the technology industry and have seen changes in a significant pace, this time it seems to be unprecedented pace. So that is also leading to a significant amount of demand that need to be addressed. Again, our customers are addressing those, and hence we as service providers and partners, we are also having opportunities around that. Now, combined with these external forces is also the fact that for a long time, some of the players in India has been in the manufacturing and or semi ecosystem for a long time. So some of us are also seeing this as a unique opportunity, especially with the Make in India initiative and the ISM initiatives that are there. So from my perspective, these are the three things that I see.
That's quite right on track, so.
Yeah, let me just go. This is Ashish Kushu. I'm the Chief Technology Officer in L&T Technology Services. Great to hear. I think I echo a lot with Ameer on his points, not much to debate there. But I think I'll just take a different view as well here. I think what's also happening is an unprecedented commoditization of technology. Unprecedented. Anything, any device, any product of whatever form factor which has a digital pulse has semicon going into it. And the dynamics of the requirement of these semicons are very different than the way we have seen semicon industry emerge or grow in the last 3 decades. And we'll delve a little bit more into it as we go forward. But that has a very different dynamics on the type of products that are required, the form factors that are required, functionalities that are required. AI happens to be one important element of it. So I think that's also driving the rethink of what does the market require in terms of features, functionalities, price points, and that is also causing a disruption in the design releases that companies have had. And I think that's a very important aspect in the whole equation, which is not talked about so much, but it's underlying driver in many cases.
Right. So with the global environment changing as well, even in India, we see this huge push that has happened in the last couple of years when it comes to the semiconductor space. As you guys noted, we guys have always been there. There is some amount of presence and some amount of capability that we've built. But more so, we see that in the limelight today. So tell us a little bit about what do you think of India's push? I know this is still a very nascent space, the kind of position India is in, but tell us what is the potential that India is seeing and how India is sort of developed in this ecosystem.
So maybe I'll just take that answer because it's a continuation of whatever I was trying to talk to you. Let's peel the onion for a minute and actually see what is unstated. What is unstated is that India is a growing market, that India's number of vehicles sold in India is perhaps 4.5 million per annum, whereas in China it's 13, 14, 15 million. I could be off from numbers. I don't know these numbers so well exactly. 15 million vehicles. US is 17 million vehicles in a year. India is at 3 or 4 million vehicles in a year. Each vehicle could be 3,000, 5,000 chips going into it. Smartphone country. Per capita income, $3,000. Growing extremely fast. We'll continue to be a low-income country for the next 10, 15 odd years, buying products which are already connected, intelligent, feature-rich, etc., etc. So if you are going to cater to this market, you ought to have offers or you ought to have a product offering which is cheap. Do go back and see what defined the Japan market. It was the space constraints in Japan which led to optimization of designs in every aspect. Now, if you are in a market which is going to grow exponentially in the next 10 years or 15 years, and your per capita income is $3,000, you're still a low-income country, and people are going to buy products, whether it is consumer electronics or phones or home appliances or med tech or whatever you may say, which is already having a digital pulse and therefore powered by a semicon, some chip or the other of a different category at price points which are low. That is the design consideration or a price point consideration which goes into the portfolio of products that have to come out. Now that's a very huge imperative in terms of what is the type of chips that you should be manufacturing for this particular market. Now, the point is that this is not the only market. In and around India as well, if you see the economy, this economy between India and China will relatively continue to be middle-class country in terms of the spend. Now, I think we underplay what's happening here. Therefore, if we are going to buy a car at a lower cost than the average price, than the average cost of a car globally, your chips inside the bill of material has to be lesser. The chips have to be more optimized and now add to it the complexity of chips which are becoming intelligent. So I think a huge market. The price points have to be price points of the various products in this market are going to decide and influence the design. And they have to appeal to the economic stature of the customers in this area. And therefore, that is the type of production or portfolio of chips that organizations or the companies have to produce in the future. And that drives a lot of investments that will drive your strategy of what you want to do in this market. So that's going to change dramatically than the current portfolio of offerings people have.
Well, I think I would just give two perspectives from relatively outside in perspective. If you look at it, I've been here in the Silicon Valley for almost 26 years. And maybe the way we are seeing the growth in India is twofold. One is if you look at the middle class growth in India, which is more than the US whole population technically. And the affordability of this middle class has increased dramatically, multifold. So it's true that it is still a very price competitive market. However, the desire to get much more functionality from any of the electronics equipment, whether it's a car, whether it's a phone, whether it's your consumer electronics, doesn't matter where it is, has increased multifold. And people are willing to pay a little bit more as well as they expect a little more. So I think the shift towards India is more about this pretty dramatic mass that the company can get access. And I think if you look at China's rise 20 years ago or what India is today, I think it's not that different. It's very similar. So this influx of products which are probably cater towards the India specific will increase. As opposed to earlier it was that, okay, what doesn't work over here or the low tech in US, let's put it back to this country. I think that has changed and it's changing dramatically. And I can give you a few examples by being on the other side of the aisle where we used to design the microcontroller or microprocessors. And then the idea was that, okay, India would be just a 8-bit controllers, but not anymore. So I think it's a very different market and behavior of the companies have changed towards that market. And I think overall, whether it's a technology, whether it is it's a functionality, I think that's where the people are gravitating towards. And it's a huge opportunity for the outside world as well. So the power of this high paying middle class is actually opened the eye for the most of the companies in the Western Hemisphere. So that's a crux that why everybody's looking at to look for India. And the second part is very simple, which I think my colleagues mentioned about the geopolitical situation. That of course the China is still the biggest market, no doubt about it. But at the same time, there's an alternate markets people are looking at, and of course India offers that potential pretty high. So with these two factors, I think the majority of the companies, doesn't matter which field they are, in the semiconductor, whether it's a networking, whether it's the consumer electronics, whether it's an automobile or whatever it is, semiconductor content is increasing dramatically, and the India specific things would increase definitely.
So if we speak about the ER&D services that we have here, now all the positive things happening globally and in India make for a great opportunity for the service providers we have here. All the prominent IT companies were in the space, but now most are becoming aggressive. So talk to us a little bit about what someone like a HCL, LTTS or a Wipro is doing in this space. What exactly is the potential that you see, and what is the traction that you have seen so far?
Yeah, Haripriya, maybe I just give some industry view before the leaders speak. Because if you see the semiconductor design, which is, includes both physical integrated circuits and also associated software, which is representing today of all industry R&D investment and value addition. So especially if you see India standouts in this space very well, which is contributing approximately 20% of the global semiconductor design workforce, with over 100,000 professionals working in both global and Indian service providers. And a very important element is, if you really look up, there is a huge talent shortage across the world, especially in the semiconductor design, because of the rising investments and also rising consumption of the semiconductor across the multiple sectors. And this is further intensified because, if you see across the OECD countries, baby boomers are retiring 2x faster than, the STEM graduates filling their shoes. And especially the India become, in this context, more critical destination for ER&D. And beyond this, India has its own advantage because you have the largest talent pool of English-speaking STEM graduates. And especially in today, India is offering unmatched talent at scale. And beyond this, it also contributing the forefront of delivering significant innovations to the global semiconductor enterprises, especially the advancements that we are talking or the leaders talked about. It could be AI, it could be the form, it could be the sustainability or quantum computing, etc. And today, if you really see that the R&D landscape, India hosts about 55 R&D centers of multinational companies, as well as 47 of 50 world top engineering service providers, which is reinforcing its pivotal role in global semiconductor landscape. So that's my comments before the leader speaks.
Ameer sir, would you like to go?
Sure. So from an HCLTech's perspective, see, for us, it is a unique place and a unique opportunity. As hopefully most of you know, we started with technology development and manufacturing. That is where our company started. So for us, it is almost a coming back home kind of a moment when India manufacturing is opening up. From a past where we had our own supply chain to Taiwan and for making desktops and even our own multi-threaded Linux and things like that. Now, when this opportunity is coming up, we look at it as an opportunity to expand our capabilities too. So that is an inside-out view from an HCLTech perspective. Secondly, we also think it is quite opportune that because of the speed of change that we are seeing, a lot of demand will be there for service providers or partners who can provide all services in one go and under one roof. We believe that there is a potential for somebody to be there who will be able to provide not piecemeal offerings, but take responsibility end to end. That is especially because of the shorter time cycle, life cycles that we are seeing, and shorter time to market that customers are demanding. These two, along with the third item, which is that in the semi-chip design space, we have always had a dominant position in the market. We are looking at this as an opportunity to double down. That is where we are.
Well, just a few comments what Ameer just mentioned. If you look at it, the reason why ER&D space is increasing, there are two things to just take into account, and they are very underlying currents. In the Western world, whether including Japan as well, in a sense, or where the traditional semiconductor engineering services were, I think the talent pool is shrinking dramatically. And because the last 20 years of the push towards the software-centric engineering talent pool, which increased dramatically, the semiconductor hardware side talent pools shrank substantially. So that's the one very underlying current. The second thing is that scaling, the way the world has scaled toward the semiconductor custom development, it just went multifold. So it's almost impossible to cater those custom silicon development by any of the companies, whether it's a Broadcom, Marvell, Intel, AMD, and anybody. It's very hard for them to bring those talent pool on the US soil or European soil. And guess what? Where this technology or this kind of talent pool was actually increased dramatically is in India and China. Obviously, China was the first frontier, and from there, India is the booming frontier right now. So it's pretty much given now that none of the semiconductor companies, whether they are typical ITDM, whether they are fabless, whether they are hyperscalers, whether they are OEMs, whether they are, it's impossible to scale without the help of this workforce. And I think this workforce comes from India, where this is a kind of foundational courses people are taking, technology people are getting aware of, and the opportunities that have been provided by tools companies like Cadence, Synopsys, and Mentor actually help. Now they are translating into real action where we have a pretty dominant workforce. So I think it's become very difficult to sustain without the help of India ecosystem for the scaling of this. And that's a very good problem to have, position to have. But I think there's a second part probably you will touch upon, that how do we increase and bring the quality of output, which the companies are expecting. That's a different sort of problem, and that we need to really go to the phase 2 of our enhancement. But that's the two areas that I want to mention, that it's become inevitable, and we have a golden opportunity as an India ecosystem to capture that.
Right. So building on what you said, how do we get better? We see in terms of the capability building being done by all the IT companies, your companies, for example, we see a lot of acquisitions have happened in the space very aggressively, say, since 2020. So internally, how is the capability building happening, or what are the organic movements being made? Obviously, acquisitions are one route that people are taking, but how else are these capabilities being bolstered when we have more and more so focus on us, and we see this as a burgeoning opportunity?
Yeah. Great question. I'll just take a few minutes to just and explain. And in fact, we've done some acquisitions in that front, and I'm sure our friends at HCL and L&T and other people also done the same thing. I think the real challenge right now is that we have to look at semiconductor ER&D separate from IT ER&D. That's the one foundational change needs to happen, and mindset difference needs to happen, which unfortunately it's not there yet. It's still the processes and all things are being designed to tackle this area is a very much traditional IT services style. That's the one that we need to think through that. The second thing is that we need to graduate from a services mindset to product mindset. I'm not talking about the developing a product. A lot of time people feel that, okay, we are not a product company. We don't need to build a product. I'm not advocating that. I'm just simply saying that the workforce that we have or the organization that we have set up, can they really understand the entire product life cycle, even in semiconductor, that how this impacts for 1 week delay of a next the die shuttle that I'm missing, and how it's going to ultimately change the cost of the die that is very expensive, millions of dollars that we lose. This understanding is not there yet. This complete, I would say, the product process understanding is still sparse. It's still not there. So what we do have workforce, but the workforce works in silos and very much in isolation. That I can do very good over here, but I don't know how it's translating to something else. So I think this is where we need to invest a lot in our people, and it needs to graduate. And organization change needs to happen. And at Wipro, we have created a very different organizational setup. It is very much focused, and it's a very standalone entity. I think it's probably only one. I'm not sure, but it's a very standalone entity where we deal with and build the talent pool to take care of a lot more full chip development, for example, because customers are looking at that, hey, I'm going to spend my resources on the next generation technology development. You take care of my derivatives. I have X, Y, Z, make it X minus 1 or X plus 1, basically, right? So can you take end to end for us? Some cases, teams are well there, but majority of cases are not. And I was on the other side of the table, and I have seen that where it is taking time to really graduate. So if we spend a little bit more time, and that's what probably all of us are looking at, and definitely from Wipro side, we are spending a lot on that direction to graduate the team member. And the third part, actually, that's even more important, developing the soft skill. I think a lot more, we really overlook. We feel that the engineers are, yes, great and technical, everything is fine. But actually, 50% of customer unhappiness is because of soft skill. It's so evident, it's so prevalent that we are not investing in that area. And I said, why not? We should invest in those areas so that our people become more, what we call understandable. It's very important that how they are presenting, how they are doing the program management, so all these three aspects, if we do in collection, I think things will be very different than we are. And if you look at 5 years from now, if you invest in the all three direction organizational thing to really support the semiconductor product life cycle, of course the technical skill as a product mindset, and then obviously the soft skill development. And that's what we need to think about it.
Anybody else would like to add?
At LTTS, we've had one of the few companies which continue to remain committed to semicon for our entire journey of the last 25, 30 odd years. And L&T as a corporate has also now gone ahead and invested in a fabulous semiconductor design company. We're completely committed, and we believe that in engineering, you will no longer, and this has been a belief for a long time, you will not be able to design anything or offer any services till you don't know the underlying layer, and the underlying layer is becoming powerful by the day. Absolutely powerful. You can't ignore it. This notion that performance will come from only software is old school for people. I mean, it's not going to be possible. It has to be a very good understanding of the underlying infrastructure, which is the hardware. But just to add to what Mr. Tyagi said, I don't think, and to Siva said, I don't think it's a question of scale in terms of quantity. yes, we are a very important part of the ecosystem, but what Mr. Tyagi mentioned, I think is very important. The product mindset and the need to have specialization in select areas in semicon is the need of the hour. He said phase 2. I think the phase 2 is almost there. You can't keep churning out volume and scale of people and say we are done with. No. We are an integral part of the semicon chain, no doubt about it, the ecosystem or whatever you may want to call it. But we cannot go further by just doing this. We have to contribute to IP creation, to basic R&D design. When you're talking of node level, 3 nanometer, 5 nanometer, you're talking of applications to be embedded, AI chips or Gen AI chips. We can't be bystanders any longer. There is a long-term investment we have to make as an organization. Organizations like NASSCOM has to help, and then the ecosystem of tool vendors and other captives have to help. That is going to be very critical for us. If I have to rate ourselves on such skills vis-a-vis Taiwan or Japan, Korea or even China, I think we are not going to be very well off in comparison. Scale-wise, yes. So it's time for us to elevate what the growth in the market would expect us to deliver.
Also wanted to talk about the government push that we are getting. At least on the manufacturing side, there is a lot of positive developments that are happening and massive pushes there. On the R&D side, how can government help better? I think that in the recent past, there have been a couple of developments with the ministry and stuff. So what is it that the industry is expecting from the government? Siva, sir, would you like to go first?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think one is we are proposing certain things around the R&D matching grants, especially in the priority sectors, aligning to the national priorities. That's one aspect that we are looking. The second element which we are also looking is how do we create the R&D infrastructure, especially the testing and prototyping, because this is slightly expensive and that can be accessible for both industry and startups to drive more innovation and patents. So these are the two key elements that has been proposed.
That's good to hear, sir. Anybody else would like to add from a company perspective or anything in particular?
Yeah, see, I think we should not look at the government investment only in a unidimensional view that government is helping invest and create or enable people. But what it will foster for sure is a very good ecosystem. And that is going to help us elevate the quality. I really think the focus has to be on the quality of skills that we have in basic design. And I think once you have that government push coming in through all these investments, we will see an accelerated uptake in terms of quality of capabilities that we develop, product mindsets that we develop, etc., which will help us a lot.
I think just to add one point here, which is, and again, I'm not sure how the government of India is looking at that. If you look at the overall semiconductor design or value chain, we do need people who are core designer on the VLSI designer, we call it, for example. Then we have people who are required for product and testing and qualification. And then we also need people who are going to work on the shop floor for so-called fabs which are coming to India. But if you look at the skill set of all these threes and the kind of training required is relatively different. So if you are asking a IIT graduate in VLSI and asking them to work on the semiconductor fabrication shop floor, it's a mismatch. So do we have this skill development or somebody has to go to build or learn the MEMS technology packaging? We don't have these specialized domain and skill development programs. And I may not be aware of, but what I have read and seen and so far, we have a difficulty of finding those kind of a people, skill and match and their expectation, all kind of stuff. So that's where I think we need to start looking at not like bringing the fab is not important. Bringing a partnership with is not important. How ultimately you are going to support a skill set that is homegrown. We're not importing somewhere else to run the fab. Basically, how do we build that inside? That I have not read and seen that is there any effort has happened. And a classic example is that TSMC tried to reopen the fab as a zone over here in US. They could not. because there was no skill set available who can come in and start the fab. So now think about this way for India. If Micron and other people are coming, where the people will get. So I think that's what I would recommend, that there is a domain-wise skill development. It should not be engineering college or something else. I think we forgot about Polytechnic in India, the old-timer, where a lot of vocational training was being done for these kind of skills, which are, doesn't matter what degree and what stream you come from, you will learn that. So I think this initiative needs to be done as opposed to just pure engineering degree, and that's what goes to the VLSI here.
No, I think, Ritesh, I agree with Ritesh on the manufacturing side, but definitely on the R&D side, we had seen, including service providers, both the MNC R&D centers has established the partners with all the premium academic research institutions, some of them running the joint master's program.
Yeah.
And also there is a applied research collaboration significantly, because a lot of them investing a big ticket item, and even Ashish can also talk about some of his initiatives. Either it is applied research hackathons or joint curriculum or the master's program, which is little bit streamlined, but it has to go at a scale, which we are looking at a significant opportunity for India. But on the manufacturing, there is a gray area, so definitely I'll agree. Maybe Ashish, you can also give some views about how you're working with academia to build the right talent.
Yes, so you're right, Mr. Tyagi, that's what I was mentioning earlier, that, I mean, at a broader level, that you just can't take the normal VLSI skills or semicon skills and say, here you go for manufacturing. I mean, you more onion you peel, the more you realize the type of complex, deep skills that you require. And it's one thing to say AI chip, it's another to actually design it right to the core. Now, I think the government of India is encouraging, and now you have to factor the fact that it's government of India, it takes its time, but they do have initiatives where they are pushing colleges, reputed colleges and institutes to roll out degrees and roll out, courses which will take care of the talent pool to some extent. So that's really there. The other thing is that there are colleges in India, but then there are very few, but there are colleges in India who have started specializing on some of these capabilities, and we work with a few of them. But all of this is good enough for a market which is very small. But now we are talking of really the leaps that we are expected in terms of the giant leap that we want to take. So I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done there. We've made a lot of representations through NASSCOM. And there is where I feel that once these manufacturing units start taking some shape in terms of some activity on the field, I think there will be a huge boost in these areas, because that should drive a lot more adoption of, these special skills that we have to focus on. But right now it's there, it's slightly more scattered. It's not as comprehensive as one would like to have. So that's where it stands.
No, I agree that the way it is looking to all of us, it does seem like the plot is not coming together and it is needed. There is a little bit of anxiety around that. I agree with that assessment. But the good part is that, we have done this before. We as a country have done this before, where there was opportunity and there was skill gaps. And we have proven time and again that we can step up and deliver. And whether that is, right at the beginning when, Y2K problems were there, or subsequently when everybody needed to be retrained into internet technologies, or then later on to ERPs, and similarly in the R&D space too, whether it is the PLM wave that happened, or, multiple places where we have done that. India as a country has done it, and I would claim that one of the key differentiating factor for talent pool in India is its learnability and ability to pick up something new. I feel optimistic that we will figure it out, and there is already on the private sector there is a lot of leading companies, including people who are in this call, who have initiatives for training at scale. And it seems like the government is also helping. So While the current state seems a little bit underwhelming, my thinking is that we are well in the process of figuring out that talent gap.
That's great, sir. Those are some amazing insights. Thank you so much for your time today. These were all the questions we had for you, and hope you had a good time in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for facilitating this.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Haripriya.
Yeah.